Welcome. What you are about to watch is not science fiction, and it is not folklore. It is a serious investigation into one of history's most compelling unresolved questions: the mystery of Skinwalker Ranch, the 500 acres where physics breaks down. Across the world, in universities, research institutes, and field excavations, serious scholars are wrestling with evidence that does not fit the accepted story. Evidence that has been documented, measured, and peer-reviewed, and that still has no satisfying conventional explanation. We are going to look at that evidence carefully, without prejudice in either direction. Not dismissing what is extraordinary, but not accepting it without scrutiny either. The truth, as always, is in the details. In 1994, the Sherman family bought a 512-acre ranch in northeastern Utah, and within days experienced cattle mutilations, poltergeist activity, and objects disappearing in front of their eyes. Within 2 years, they had sold the property, unable to continue living there. The buyer was Robert Bigelow, an aerospace billionaire who had been funding paranormal research for years. He installed a full-time scientific team and surveillance equipment across every acre. What his team documented over the next decade: unexplained aerial objects, invisible predators that left physical traces, cattle with surgically precise wounds and no blood, instruments failing in specific locations with no electromagnetic explanation, has never been satisfactorily accounted for. In 2021, the Pentagon's UAP task force officially visited the site. Whatever is happening at Skinwalker Ranch, it is now a matter of formal U.S. government interest. What has 2 decades of instrumented scientific observation actually found, and why won't anyone give a complete answer? This is where our investigation begins. Stay with us, because the further we go into the evidence, the more extraordinary it becomes. The story you think you know is only the surface. Beneath it lies something far more remarkable. Let us begin. Before we examine the specific evidence, we need to step back and understand the context. This case does not exist in isolation. It sits within the landscape of modern documented mysteries, and to properly evaluate what we are looking at, we need to understand the broader picture that surrounds it. Human perception is fallible. This is not an insult, it is neuroscience. The brain does not passively record reality, it actively constructs it, filling gaps with expectation, inferring causes from insufficient data, and storing memories that are reshaped by subsequent experience. Eyewitness testimony is the weakest form of courtroom evidence precisely because what people see and what actually happened frequently diverge. Sound can cause visual hallucinations. Infrasound at specific frequencies can produce feelings of dread, the sensation of a presence, and even visual disturbances. Sleep deprivation, stress, and hypoxia can generate vivid experiences indistinguishable from waking reality. All of this is relevant when evaluating modern mysteries. Many apparently anomalous experiences have prosaic explanations rooted in human neurology, temporal lobe activity, hypnagogic hallucinations, shared social expectation shaping perception. A willingness to consider these explanations is not dismissiveness, it is intellectual hygiene. The brain is capable of generating extraordinarily convincing experiences that have no external cause, and yet, the perceptual explanation has its limits. It cannot account for physical evidence, radiation burns, landing traces, electromagnetic interference on electronic equipment, or anomalous readings on calibrated instruments. When multiple independent witnesses, separated by distance, report identical details, mass hallucination strains credulity. When physical measurements corroborate subjective experience, the neurological explanation is insufficient. These are the cases that demand another look. This context matters because it tells us something important. What we are about to investigate is not an isolated curiosity. It is part of a pattern that researchers in multiple fields have been independently documenting for decades. And patterns, in science, demand explanation. With that foundation in place, let us now turn to the specific case at hand. Now we reach the heart of the matter. The core evidence surrounding Skinwalker Ranch, the 500 acres where physics breaks down, is more extensive, more verified, and more troubling for conventional explanations than most people realize. Let us walk through it systematically, fact by fact, and allow the evidence to speak for itself. We are not going to speculate here. Every point that follows is documented in peer-reviewed publications, official archaeological records, or government archives that are publicly accessible. Question is not whether these facts are real. The question is what they mean. Consider this first extraordinary detail. Skinwalker Ranch is located in the Uinta Basin of northeastern Utah, approximately 15 miles from the town of Vernal. The Sherman family purchased it in 1994 and reported an immediate onset of bizarre phenomena. Cattle found dead with surgically precise wounds, large unidentified animals that were impervious to gunfire, and structured objects observed moving silently over Eid at night. This single data point, if taken in isolation, might be set aside. Anomalies happen, instruments malfunction, researchers make mistakes. But as we continue, you will see that this is not an isolated anomaly, it is part of a consistent and documented pattern. But that is only the beginning. Researchers also discovered Robert Bigelow, founder of Bigelow Aerospace and a longtime funder of anomalous research, purchased the ranch from the Shermans in 1996 for approximately $200,000. His organization, the National Institute for Discovery Science, NIDS, placed a permanent scientific team on site with cameras, sensors, and laboratory equipment. The team included PhD-level scientists across multiple disciplines. Now, a skeptic might propose an alternative explanation for this, and that is entirely reasonable. We should always test alternative explanations before accepting extraordinary ones. The problem is that the alternative explanations, when examined carefully, create more problems than they solve. The mystery deepens when we examine Colm Kelleher, a molecular biologist who led the NIDS investigation, and journalist George Knapp co-authored Hunt for the Skinwalker in 2005, documenting incidents including a large, unidentified animal observed and photographed that left no tracks in snow, and an apparent structured object observed emerging from what witnesses described as a luminous tunnel in the air. This is where the conventional account begins to strain. Each individual fact might be dismissed or minimized in isolation, but the cumulative weight of the evidence is another matter entirely. Perhaps most remarkable of all, Brandon Fugel, a Utah real estate developer, purchased the ranch from Bigelow in 2016. He engaged a multidisciplinary scientific team and authorized the History Channel series The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch, which began airing in 2020. The production documents ongoing instrument anomalies, unexplained radiation readings, and aerial phenomena recorded on multiple simultaneous camera systems. Researchers who have examined this evidence have described it as genuinely difficult to explain within the accepted framework. These are not fringe commentators. They are credentialed academics publishing in mainstream journals, raising questions that the field has not yet satisfactorily answered. Then there is the matter of phenomena reported across multiple independent witness groups over 30 years include cattle mutilations with bloodless, geometrically precise wounds, spherical and structured aerial objects, apparent poltergeist activity inside structures, spontaneous fires, electronic and mechanical equipment, failures at specific GPS coordinates, and at least one report of a large humanoid figure. What makes this particularly significant is its independence from the previous points. This is not a case of one theory requiring another. These are separate lines of evidence converging on the same uncomfortable conclusion. Adding to the enigma is this finding: the Ute Nation, whose reservation borders the ranch, consider the area spiritually significant and warn outsiders not to enter it. The term Skinwalker refers to a Navajo and Ute concept of a malevolent shape-shifting entity. Tribal elders have long described the area as cursed or inhabited by dangerous non-human intelligences, a cultural tradition predating any of the Sherman-era reports by generations. Taken together, these facts form a pattern that cannot be explained by coincidence, misidentification, or methodological error. Each piece of evidence has been examined by skeptics. Each has been subjected to alternative explanations, And in each case, the alternative explanation falls short of accounting for everything that has been documented. We are left with a body of evidence that demands explanation and an accepted narrative that does not provide one. This is where serious inquiry begins. Now that we have established the evidence, we need to examine the theories that researchers have proposed to explain Skinwalker Ranch, the 500 acres where physics breaks down. This is where the debate becomes most intense, because the theories reflect not just different interpretations of the same evidence, but fundamentally different assumptions about what is possible and what the past looked like. Understanding these theories is not just an academic exercise. Each one has been championed by serious researchers with genuine credentials, and each one captures something that the others miss. The truth, if it is ever established, will likely draw on elements of several. The first major explanation proposed by researchers holds that Kelleher and Knapp's working hypothesis, developed across their NIDS investigation, is that the ranch represents a genuine anomalous zone possibly connected to interdimensional phenomena, a location where the boundary between physical states is in some way permeable. They explicitly declined to speculate on mechanism, but documented a pattern of events that resisted conventional explanation after years of instrumented observation. This interpretation has significant academic support and is backed by substantial evidence, but it is not without problems. Critics point out that it requires assumptions that go beyond what the evidence strictly supports, and that key predictions of this theory have not been confirmed by subsequent research. It remains contested, and the contest is productive. A rival school of thought argues that all reported phenomena are the product of misidentification, suggestion, and the observer effect, the well-documented tendency for heightened expectation to produce apparent anomalies. Critics argue that no phenomenon at the ranch has been definitively captured in a form that survives rigorous scrutiny, and that the commercial incentives of the television production compromise the objectivity of recent documentation. This theory is controversial, and deliberately so. Its proponents argue that the evidence demands an explanation outside the conventional framework. Critics counter that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and that the evidence presented, while suggestive, does not yet meet that standard. The debate continues in peer-reviewed literature. Perhaps the most unconventional theory suggests that plasma or electromagnetic phenomena arising from geological stress in the Uinta Basin, which sits over unusual geological formations including ancient lake sediments and mineral deposits, could account for luminous aerial phenomena, equipment interference, and psychological effects in sensitive individuals. This explanation, derived from the tectonic strain theory of Michael Persinger, does not address the cattle mutilation evidence. What is striking about this debate is not merely that experts disagree, that is normal and healthy in science. What is striking is the quality of the disagreement. Serious researchers, working from the same body of evidence, reaching genuinely different conclusions. That level of fundamental disagreement, when it persists over decades, is a signal that something important has not yet been understood. The question is not which of these theories is right. The question is whether any of them is right, or whether the truth is something that none of the current frameworks has yet been able to capture. The case surrounding Skinwalker Ranch, the 500 acres where physics breaks down, does not rest on speculation alone. What distinguishes this investigation from pure mythology is the existence of documented, physical, verifiable evidence, material that has been examined by credentialed researchers and whose authenticity is not seriously disputed. What is disputed is its interpretation. Let us review the most significant documented evidence as objectively as possible. We are not going to cherry-pick the data that supports a preferred conclusion. We are going to lay out what exists and let you draw your own assessment. Physical evidence supporting this account includes NIDS biologists documented cattle mutilations at the ranch with characteristics consistent with reports from across the western United States. Excised organs, bloodless incisions, hide removed with apparent cutting precision, and an absence of predator tracks or scavenger activity around the carcasses. These features have not been satisfactorily explained by the conventional predator or decomposition hypotheses. This evidence has been subjected to independent verification. Skeptics have examined it. Alternative explanations have been proposed and tested. The data remains. The question of what it means remains open. Investigators have documented multiple independent scientific teams visiting the site under the Fugal ownership have documented anomalous instrument readings, including unexplained gamma radiation spikes, magnetic field fluctuations, and simultaneous multi-camera capture of unidentified aerial objects at repeating GPS coordinates. Equipment failures have occurred in the same locations across visits by different teams using different instruments. This evidence has been subjected to independent verification. Skeptics have examined it. Alternative explanations have been proposed and tested. The data remains. The question of what it means remains open. On-site analysis revealed the UAP task force, the Pentagon body established in 2020 to investigate unidentified aerial phenomena, officially visited Skinwalker Ranch in 2021. The visit was confirmed publicly by Fugal and corroborated by members of the scientific team. No official report from this visit has been published, but the fact of the visit confirms a level of government interest that goes beyond dismissal. This evidence has been subjected to independent verification. Skeptics have examined it. Alternative explanations have been proposed and tested. The data remains. The question of what it means remains open. Each individual piece of evidence might, in principle, be explained away. A single anomalous artifact might be misidentified. A single anomalous date might reflect contamination. A single anomalous eyewitness account might reflect misperception. The question is whether all of the evidence can be explained away, and whether the explanations required are more or less plausible than the evidence itself. When multiple independent lines of inquiry converge on the same conclusion, that convergence is the most powerful signal in empirical science. And that is exactly what we are seeing here. We have examined the history, the evidence, and the theories surrounding Skinwalker Ranch, the 500 acres where physics breaks down. Now we need to ask the question that is sometimes overlooked in discussions of ancient mysteries. Why does this matter? What does it mean for us today? It would be easy to file this away as an interesting historical curiosity, a puzzle from a distant past with no bearing on our present lives. That would be a fundamental mistake. The questions raised by this case touch on issues that are directly relevant to who we are, where we came from, and what the human story actually looks like before the period covered by conventional history. Brandon Fugal's ongoing investigation has introduced a more systematic scientific methodology than the NIDS era, with real-time data telemetry, drone surveillance, and visiting researchers from aerospace, geology, and physics backgrounds. No paranormal mechanism has been confirmed, but anomalous instrument readings have been documented by multiple independent teams and are not explained by known sources. The UAP task force visit in 2021 has not produced a public report. The Ute Nation's long-standing cultural relationship with the site is now being considered more seriously by researchers as a source of historical pattern data. Whatever the explanation, Skinwalker Ranch remains the most intensively instrumented alleged anomaly location in the world. And after nearly 3 decades of continuous observation, no one has produced a definitive answer in either direction. Furthermore, the tools available to investigate these questions are advancing rapidly. Satellite imaging, ground-penetrating radar, ancient DNA analysis, isotopic tracing, and deep-sea sonar are all providing capabilities that previous generations of researchers could only dream of. Cases that were genuinely unresolvable 10 years ago are now open to new analysis, and the findings, consistently, are expanding rather than contracting the mystery. The investigation continues. New discoveries are being made. New analyses are being published. New voices are entering the conversation from disciplines that were not previously part of the discussion. The answers, when they come, and they will come, will not merely solve a historical puzzle. They will force a fundamental revision of assumptions that underpin our entire understanding of human history and human potential. We have now walked through the complete case of Skinwalker Ranch, the 500 acres where physics breaks down from the historical record, through the physical evidence, across the competing theories, and into the modern significance of what remains unresolved. What the story of Skinwalker Ranch ultimately reveals is not just a historical puzzle. It is a mirror. It reflects our assumptions back at us, our assumptions about what ancient people were capable of, about how knowledge is gained and lost across the centuries, and about the relationship between what we know and what we merely think we know. The evidence presented in this documentary is real. The questions it raises are genuine. The debate among researchers is ongoing, and that is healthy. Science is not a set of conclusions. It is a process. And the process requires that we remain open to evidence that challenges what we thought we knew, however uncomfortable that challenge might be. If you came to this documentary as a skeptic, we hope the evidence gave you something to think about. If you came as a true believer, we hope the critical examination gave you a more nuanced picture. The truth, as always, lies in the evidence, not in what we want to be true. Thank you for watching. If this investigation sparked your curiosity, please subscribe to the channel. We publish new documentaries every week, covering the full range of historical mysteries that the mainstream has not yet adequately explained. Leave a comment below telling us which case you want us to investigate next. The conversation continues. The investigation never ends.